to Acton Burnell. I've got a lovely 24.5 pound Miria, beautiful little scaled fish, as always. Got here last night, and I've had him about half an hour before the camera crew. But he's been quite well behaved. Been fishing for a couple of days, trying to catch some big fish. The lake's famous for them, and hopefully the session will continue in this way. Absolutely fantastic.
Well done, mate. It was
Cheers.
a nice little start, wasn't it?
Yeah, it takes a little bit of the pressure off, you know, a bit more relaxed.
Well, I haven't caught one yet, so.
Well, we've seen a couple of
But
fish.
you have. We have seen fish. We have seen fish. We got here yesterday afternoon. It was quite overcast conditions, really quite windy, a big strong westerly blowing down the lake. But the wind was a bit of old news, really, when it had been blowing there all week. We didn't really see anything to go on. The captures from the previous week on the open access bookings here at Acton didn't really tell us too much either. So it was a bit of a shot in the dark, wasn't it?
Well, it was, and I think we took into consideration that there was 10 anglers fishing last week, and there was coots picking bait up all around the lake. So, you know, we've gone in a bit softly to start with, just to sort of see how the session evolves, really, just to give it time to work out if there is any bait left, which this morning, it seems a bit of a different picture. The wind's changed.
You caught your fish over how many baits? 15 baits?
15,
like that?
yeah, 15 code red, yeah.
Perfect small little baited area. I mean, it's very easy when you come on a longer session like this, isn't it, where you've got a number of big fish to think, oh yeah, they're going to have it, I'm going to make them have it, I'm going to do this and do that. But when you got that feeling that it's not been happening, we weren't seeing fish, there was no fizzing, no rolling, no real fish hiding in the snags. We saw a maybe.
Yep, yeah.
And so we plumbed for this end of the lake, which is quite famous by all accounts.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning there that you've just talked about wanting to go gun-ho, and obviously, you know, we've got 3 days, so you could have put a better bait and fished it over. But, I mean, we've brought the bait with us, but I think it's
staying in the car.
It's quite a little tip almost, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of having the bait, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to use it, try and work out what the conditions are like. Yeah. I mean, it's been cold, the water temperature's down a degree or two.
And look at it now.
And
we've had some outrageous weather this morning.
Yeah.
It's just been constant stair rods of rain. We've been hiding in the bivvy thinking, please stop raining, for filming purposes. Obviously we had a fish in the sling ready to have his picture taken, and when it has stopped, it's gone blue skies. It feels probably 5 or 6 degrees warmer.
Yeah.
And really we should be watching the pond now, because I reckon there might be a good chance. I've seen a fish in my peg this morning.
Yeah.
I put a rod on him. That seems to be a good method on here. But throughout the course of this video, we're going to go through all the sort of tips and tactics that we would use when fishing for big fish like this. They're pressured fish, they're really wised up, they've been fished for many, many years. Constant angling pressure. They're riggy, they're spooky, they know what baits they like and which ones they don't like. So, you know, you've really got to be on your game, haven't you?
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I think what you've just mentioned there, if you come into a venue like this, you know, I've never been here this time of year. I've fished it a couple of times before, but you've done a bit of research. You know, there is ways that you can find out snippets of information, and they're critical. You know,
definitely. Anybody I know who's ever fished here, I have spoken to them in the last 2 weeks, because we're here filming. I've never been here before. You've been a couple of times.
Yeah.
So anybody I know who's fished it, especially people who fished it this time of year in the open access weeks. I mean, they open up Acton Burnell on the open access bookings every year through the spring. It's prime time. These fish are in tip-top condition after the winter, at the biggest weights, and you know, you can book 1 bank, 2 banks, a few swims.
That's right.
You can book the whole lake if you like, the top and the bottom lake, and that puts you in touch with what, 25, 30, 40s between the two lakes.
It's incredible.
Right time of year, it's amazing.
Incredible fishery.
You know, I've spoken to the guys who were here last week, the guys who were here the week before, because you can never know too much, especially if you've never seen the place before. And as you'll see, this place is something else.
Yeah, it's a very pretty lake. Incredible.
It's next level, and so are the fish. So let's get our act in order.
Hopefully.
Get the kettle on, and formulate a bit of a plan for the day, I
See
think.
if we can sneak another one.
Yeah.
There's a little break in the weather, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to talk about the swim, why I've chosen it. It's a swim called the African. It's quite a famous swim. It's up the shallow end of the lake. Springtime, you know, not far away from spawning. I hedged my bets that they'd be up this end, although the weather's been against it. But hopefully a bit more of this sun and some more fish will turn up. Right, the swim from left to right starts off slightly deeper. As it goes further right, it goes up to a little bay. There's no pegs up there. It's all reed lined. It's absolutely fantastic spot for the fish to mill around. They feel safe. So I'm trying to catch them as they're coming in and out. I think there might have been a few fish there, so I've done it as quietly as possible. I've just led it around with a couple of small leads. Just found for a drop really, more than anything. Not a lot of feature changes or depth changes. So I found a couple of drops in between the weed beds. Put about 20 baits out around the left-hand rod. This was the one I had the bite on. The other two I fished just as a hook bait. I could move them and rove them. As we said earlier, there was a bit of bait in last week. There's a bit of pressure on, so we just wanted to leave it last night to let the bait from last week to sort of fish itself out really. It's paid off, we've had the little fish.
Here we are in the Conker swim, another one of Acton Bernal's famous swims. It commands, as you can see, an awful lot of open water, but going on previous history and in the last week or so, most of the fish have been coming from quite close in. So I sort of came to the lake with a bit of a preconceived idea about, oh, I bet no one's put much bait in and all that, but it appears that nothing could be further from the truth. We can see the birds keep diving down, picking baits up, so there's a lot of uneaten bait already out there. Nigel's caught his fish this morning quite close in down here, and most of my rods when I arrived yesterday were fished quite close in. You know, we saw a fish out in the open water over here. There's been sort of flat spots and that sort of thing over there ever since, so I am keeping a rod over there. I've got to, because if you see one on here, when it's like this and they're not showing that much, that gives you confidence that you're somewhere near the right area. On the middle rod, again this morning, we were just talking about how we hadn't seen that many fish show, and all of a sudden, boop, there you go. A fish was showing, fizzing up, perfect. So I dropped a rod in the rings, just a single up bait. You know, I've just put a nice little code red pop-up out there. I'm confident that if the fish are there and they're feeding, there's probably already some bait there, so a single up bait will do the job. And then the left-hand rod. This is the rod I keep expecting to lean over and just bend round the corner, because I had a bit of a plum around yesterday with the marker rod, and I found a lovely spot. I mean, it's not often on a silty venue like this that you get a rattle on the float. And I think, judging by the amount of swan mussels and things that are in the edge, it's probably either an old mussel bed or a new mussel bed, something like that. It went down with a whack anyway, and on the float, on the braid, rat-tat-tat-tat, perfect. That rod I've put probably 50 baits round. I just oiled up some code red, got some 12mm, some 15s and some 18s, and I've literally just peppered them out with the catty. I've got to get out in the water to cast this rod. It's really precise, small spot, a little bit further to the right, and I'm down the shelf in the silt, which I don't want to be there. I want to be on that mussel bed that's there, or it could be gravel, it could be rocks, it could be an old tree root for all I know, but it's totally different to the surrounding area. So for me, that's perfect. And with the wind howling down there and the odd little slick coming up every now and again, I'm confident that this afternoon might just bring something a little bit special.
It's quite a pressured venue. They've been fished for sort of 20 years. And I know that people have been saying they've had a few beeps and nothing else. So to me, that's thinking, not only is it line bites, but it's possibly fish feeding and getting rid of the hook bait. We all know it goes on, so we just try to make things, you know, to alleviate some of the problems. So what I'm using here is the Withy Pool rig. It's a well-known rig. It's been around for quite a long time, but it still produces the goods. So what we've done is we've made a kicker so it makes it simple for you. So each time you make it, it's got the same form, which is tried and tested, and it's critical to get it right. So it took us a long time to get it quite right, and I think we've succeeded. The proof's in the fish. And all it does, it creates a lovely shape that as the fish takes the bait, the putty and the hook point form around its bottom lip. So it makes it very, very difficult for the fish to eject it, and it's something that's very unusual for the fish to deal with. As it's very silty, I'm using it on our pin down hook link. Now the pin down is very, very soft, sinks exceptionally well, so the hook's going to sit nicely on any contour of the lake bed that it falls. I've not plumbed up, the swim's quite shallow, there's fish in the bay, so I just wanted to fish quite stealthily as such. So I've just flicked out a couple of leads, found a firm drop, and the rig's fishing. Well, I've showed you the rig, so now we'll have a look at it, what it looks like on the bottom. So for this purpose we're using a tank, just so you can see it nicely. So I'll just pop it straight in. Straight away you can see the pin down sinks, the sinker aids that, and the rig sits there nicely, ready for the carp. Looks a bit frightening, but seriously, it's worth trying. It will catch you some extra fish. You'll probably be noticing on there my little edge on my hook bait as well. I'm using a Code Red oozing pop-up. A lot of confidence in those, and obviously fishing it over the Code Red free offerings. Pouring its flavour and attraction out all around, and as that disperses into the water, it's just like a little homing signal for the carp. Spot on.
A bit like Nigel, I've brought the rig that I've got the utmost faith in for big fish. Since I changed to this rig, I've caught an unbelievable amount of bigger fish than I'd normally catch, and I don't think there's any coincidence in that. The rig itself, I call the German rig, because it was one of my German friends that showed it to me and how it works, and the principle is really simple. You've got a wafter or a bottom bait on a curved shank hook with a coated hook link, a semi-stiff one, something like 25-pound captive's perfect. And the idea is that it makes the hook bait stable, so no matter where I pick the hook bait up from, the hook always wants to hang underneath. The bait itself runs on a big eye hook swivel behind a hook bead. That just gives it loads of movement. I don't fish the bead all the way around the bend either. I like to keep it somewhere near, maybe opposite the barb, opposite the point, something like that. Gives it loads of movement. From there, as I say, I've got the sinker, no coating peel back. That's the important part. When you have a bit of coating, sometimes when the fish is sucking and blowing, it can come firing back out the way it came in. With that little bit of rigidity behind the hook, it just gives you some stability and holds it in the prone position like I'm holding it there. And at the other end, I've got an anti-tangle sleeve, a figure of 8 loop knot that I can just quickly change on and off, a quick change swivel. And if you're not sure how confident I am in that rig, let me show you my rig board. You can see here one side, different hook link materials, so it's got different stiffnesses. So these are tied in a 15-pound breaking strain, and then the ones on this side are all tied in 25. Some in 6s, some in size 4s, Avid curve shank. I absolutely love that hook, absolutely love it. It nails them, it really does, and it's perfect for bottom baits, wafters, boilies, fishing over particles. This is the rig. This is the one that I would put my house on, which is why it's out in the pond now. So that's enough of me talking about that. I'm going to keep watching the water and see if I can bag a big one on what I believe to be a great big fish rig. Like some of you watching, I grew up fishing a lot of silty meres in the Shropshire and Staffordshire area. It's where I'm from, it's where I've always lived. So I know a little bit about silty venues, and you learn over the years from the successful anglers what works and what doesn't. You try it in your own fishing and sometimes you're successful. For me, boilies are a great way to get fish in your swim. But sometimes just putting boilies out, just, you know, maybe just a few 15 millers or just a few 18 millers, it's a bit sort of one-dimensional. But because of the silverfish in this lake and in a lot of the meres, you simply don't have a choice. You know, you can put a big baited area out of particles and pellets, but it's very rarely going to get eaten by the carp first. It's going to get eaten by everything else. So for me, you can't beat a good boilie, and for me this is about as good as it gets. A nice robin red fish meal, beautiful. But as you can see from the bag, it's quite nice. You know, it's a fairly sort of softish bait. When you crumble it open, you got a nice smell and everything, but you can really pep those up. Now I'll put a few 18s in a bucket, get a few 15s and plonk them in as well. And what I really want to do is make these a little bit more exciting than they are, and maybe give them a little bit of a coating so they're actually more attractive when they're sat on top of the silt. For me, the best way to do that is with oil. And this Code Red oil has got a lovely smell. It's sort of salmon, crab, little bit of black pepper in the background. I'm not putting loads on, it's just enough to give them a bit of a coating. So I put that in there like that, and then the next job is to give them a bit of a shake around. So, you know, in a bucket or a ground bait bowl, anything really, just give them a shake. And as you can see, they are glistening with pride. Now, doesn't that look a lot more attractive than how they came dry out of the bag? I like to take it one step further as well, because one thing I've noticed from putting a little bit of bag mix in the edge here is that wherever there's a little bit of ground bait or a little bit of pellet, the rudd come in and they churn up the bottom. They're turning the colour over massively. You know, the lakes, I wouldn't say it's gin clear, but there is an element of clarity to it. And getting just some fish in your swim and turning it over and getting some colour in the water might just be the edge that gets these bigger fish to make a mistake. So to make that more pronounced, I add in a nice fish meal based ground bait. This Hempanelli crush is amazing. It's crushed halibut pellet and crushed hemp cake. It's sort of a leftover byproduct of when they make crushed hemp and things like that. And you can see it's a lovely mix of hemp, crushed halibut pellets, some quite big pieces in there. I'm just giving that a bit of a scattering. It's almost like a seasoning for the boilies. I give them another shake around, and you can hear them in there. They've gone gritty. And now every bait has got a lovely coating of hemp and halibut, a coating of oil. It's all something that it didn't have before. It's one way to catch fish in the silt that you ought to try, because it really does work beautifully.
I think as the session goes on, the weather's picking up better and better, so the chances are going to improve, I'd say. I think the worst is behind us with that cold. Sun's come out now, it's warmed, you know, it feels like a whole different day, you know.
It's nice that that wind's still really blustering around, you know, the clouds are flying over top, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's like being up in the mountains almost. I know we're not, but that's the way it feels.
Yeah, I think with the tall trees and that and around the lake, it does swirl around, so it gives you, you know, the wind sort of blows in 2 or 3 different directions. It's quite strange, but
well, the barometric pressure is dropping like a stone.
well, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I keep getting text messages from fellow avid team members to say, like, what's happened, have you had a big un yet? Because they're fishing and big uns are getting caught.
Well,
you can't ignore that, can you?
well, no, but it's as we saw a week or so ago, when the moon phase comes, right?
I remember speaking to you about it, and I'd always been quite dismissive about the moon phases. Actually, at Baden Hall on the quarry pool, you know, I've been going back year after year trying to catch that common, and over time I've sort of got a wall planner at work, and every capture from the last 4 or 5 years is on that calendar.
Yeah.
And you can twice a year you can throw a blanket over the captures. They're all within 2-3 days of each other. Most fishery websites are really well kept. I mean, RH Fisheries, they update it every day. There's 2 or 3 of them. Rob's posting, Alex is posting, Tom's posting about what fish are getting caught, what swims, what lakes are switching on. So it's not difficult to find out for us what happened on here in May last year.
No, the information's there. So it's big fish angling. You need to build up a picture of not only when, say, moon phases, but also sometimes weather conditions and even swims. Certain big fish come out of certain swims constantly. I mean, the lower lake here is a prime example. The big common down there, 50-pound common, it comes out generally on a moon phase from 1 or 2 swims, and it's done that year after year. You know, they are creatures of habit, you know.
Well, let's hope that habitually they are out in front of us and they're going to trough their heads off tonight.
Well,
it does look better now, I must admit. I think we're at the right end of the lake. And little things like that, the research, moon phases, looking back and speaking to anglers that have been here before, they're the things that you can do that don't cost anything. So on that note, you can make me a cup of tea. I don't know if I want to drink it out of that particular mug.
It's quite clean.
It looks it. For a lot of anglers, when they think about silty venues like this, I think that everyone gets blinded by pop-ups. It's got to be a pop-up, it's got to be a pop-up because of the detritus on the lake bed. But I don't actually think that that's necessarily correct. You know, pop-ups are good over areas where it is a little bit choddy, there's lots of maybe leaf mould in the autumn or twigs and stuff in the marginal areas. But give it some thought, because for me, when they're in the silt and they're feeding in the silt, their mouths are in the lake bed. You know, and your bait could quite easily be hovering around above their noses. Well, I'll go through now some of my favourite choices on this type of venue. You know, like I say, you've got a decent clarity of water here and also a decent amount of depth in some of the swims. You know, these fish are just cruising around, they don't seem to be really feeding. So in that type of situation, I'd go for one of these, one of my little homemade specials. These are little wafters that just sink under the weight of a size 6 or a size 4 hook. You know, we've got a combination of different flavours in there. Both of them have got an oil-based flavour, which I find perfect for silty venues like this. And oil, for me, is the key. And I do like fishing with the bottom baits. Bottom baits straight out of the bag are great, but for me, I want a bait that doesn't necessarily roll around quite so much. So if I'm going for a bottom bait, I'll go for a dumbbell. And these have been glugged in that lovely, lovely code red oil. And it just stops, it wards off the attentions of the nuisance fish. It makes the bait a little bit harder. And again, it's stopping that silt from penetrating into the bait. On from that, of course, I've got probably my favourite of all the code red hook baits, and that's the wafters. These have got like a cork dust inside of them to just balance them out beautifully. They just hover above the hook. It's exactly what you want over this type of lake bed, in my opinion. Again, that oil is on them. It has to be on them. And finally, for snowman rigs or just a sort of overweighted pop-up, maybe if I'm using a larger hook, you know, these are a 12mm hook bait, and something like a size 4 avid kerf shank, I'll probably sink one of these. I've caught quite a lot of fish on these over the years, and what I do is I really flood them with liquid attractant, so they almost become like a wafter themselves. A great option for wary fish that are perhaps a bit spooky over bigger baits. It's a great, great little tip that. You know, flood it with liquid and let the liquid sink the bait. It's a great way of turning a pop-up into something really special.